Tonight, 3 people charged in police operation Victor Jenga.
The Reserve Bank keeps interest rates on hold.
How the Far North celebrated the Melbourne Cup.
And local students' gift to an injured boy.
This is 7 News with Joanne, Desmond and Nathan Spurling.
Good evening, thanks for joining us.
Good evening.
Police have charged 3 men for allegedly consorting with members of an outlaw motorcycle gang in the Far North. The trio will face their Cairns court in the next 2 weeks. Frank Russo has more.
Police Operation Victor Jenga started in August last year to disrupt, gather intelligence and conduct enforcement actions relating to the Mongols outlaw motorcycle gang. Detectives raided properties at Edmonton, Mount Sheridan and Kowara Beach on Saturday. They allegedly seized a number of electronic devices containing images of Mongols Cairns City chapter members wearing branded clothing. A 35-year-old Spearwah man was charged with 1 count of habitually consorting with recognised offenders and 3 counts of breach of bail. A 30-year-old man was charged with 4 counts of breach of bail, while a 31-year-old Mount Sheridan man was charged with 1 count of habitually consorting with recognised offenders and contravening an order about information necessary to access information stored electronically. These latest arrests come after 6 people were charged, accused of violent behaviour and drug distribution in June this year. Police say outlaw motorcycle gangs are not welcome in the Far North, and we will not tolerate any behaviour that causes fear and harm in our community. The men are on bail and are expected to face a Cairns court later this month.
Thanks very much for that, Frank. Well, mortgage holders who are hoping for some Christmas cheer today were left disappointed after the Reserve Bank kept interest rates on hold at 4.35%. The decision comes as the inflation rate was slowly falling within the RBA's target range of 2 to 3%.
It reflects the progress that we are making together in the fight against inflation.
But most economists believe an interest rates cut is expected early next year.
History has again been made at the Melbourne Cup as a 5-year-old gelding with regional Queensland connections stunned the field at Flemington. Knight's Choice was paying odds of 101 to 1 earlier today, but in a photo finish, an amazing new chapter for the great race was written.
The 164th Melbourne Cup again brought crowds to Flemington, but a horse with regional Queensland connections wasn't enticing too many punters.
He was an honest effort last time in the Bendigo Cup. He's got to make up a fair bit of ground on Sea King, though. He's entitled to be a price.
Knight's Choice at one stage this morning was 101 to 1. But in the famous final stretch, something special was brewing for the 5-year-old gelding.
Knight's Choice is coming through at any old price, and Warp Speed as well. Zardozy grabbed by Knight's Choice and Warp Speed coming at him. Knight's Choice, Warp Speed, they hit the line. It's a photo finish. Knight's Choice, I reckon's won from Warp Speed.
A few nervous minutes followed until
Knight's Choice is the winner. Robbie Dolan for John Simons and Sheila Lexon. It is a rank outsider.
The upset, one for the ages. It was also the first time Queensland-based Irish jockey Robbie Dolan was racing in the Cup, and what a debut.
I watched every Melbourne Cup for the last 40 years the other night, and I just thought my best chance is if I get him to stay the trip, and hopefully he can rattle home.
Warp Speed was second, Okita Sushi third, and for those in office sweeps, Just Fine ran last. Luke McGarry, 7 News.
And Far Northerners did their bit to celebrate the Melbourne Cup, dressing to the theme of Flemington Flamingos. It was all for a good cause, raising money for a new surgical robot in Cairns.
Showcasing the best fashion and fascinators in Cairns.
It's fabulous. This is probably the best setup we've seen in years. I think this is just brilliant weather. Everybody looks fabulous.
Palm Cove became FNQ's version of Flemington.
The outfits are amazing. I think the judges today at Fashion's really going to have such a hard decision to make.
And the theme was Flemington Flamingos.
We've got live auctions, amazing prizes, Lizard Island, Mount Mulligan. We have a beautiful diamond bracelet from the Diamond Hunter.
It's the only place in Australia with a horse race on the beach.
Top over the world. There's nothing more amazing than riding down this beach.
It may not be the race that stops the nation, but it certainly stopped the far north. The event here at Nunu's has been running for 21 years, raising money for the Hospital Foundation.
We're so incredibly grateful. They've been able to contribute over $400,000 back to the community.
Today's event sold out within 6 minutes.
This year we're raising funds for Donate for Denny, the surgical robot. Now that's a $4.3 million project.
Christina Pooljak, 7 News.
Yeah, fabulous event and great cause. We could soon see some sweeping changes to the way the Australian healthcare system operates. It's part of a landmark review into our health heroes and how they're currently hamstrung by red tape.
Cutting out the middleman could be the way of the future for healthcare.
For the poor GPs that are swamped at the moment, it would be good to be able to relieve that pressure for them.
Patients treated at some allied health services are currently sent back to the GP if they need a referral to see a specialist.
Currently, the GPs are inundated with patients for every situation that's going on, and it's so congested. It would be much easier, obviously, if our patients could just go directly to the surgeons.
Now, a landmark report has found removing barriers like this will improve access to regional healthcare.
But also for the patients to just have the ability to get into your specialists a lot quicker.
It'll alleviate some pressure from our overwhelmed general practitioners, but not everyone thinks it's a good idea.
The risk with this report is that we'll get siloed off, have a two-tier health system and really not share information or share knowledge about patients.
It's now up to the federal government to action all or some of the 18 recommendations. Health Minister Mark Butler says much of the advice requires states and territories and other organisations to jump on board, but a timeline for those discussions is still up in the air.
Just because it is a review and there are recommendations doesn't mean it will be adopted nor implemented.
Claire Sienta, 7 News.
Stephen Miles will continue to lead Queensland Labor after being elected unopposed as the new opposition leader. But the shadow cabinets had a shake-up with 4 new MPs voted in.
Tom Smith, Joan Peace, Corinne McMillan and Linus Power. Half of our shadow cabinet will be women. All of our regional MPs will be in shadow cabinet.
Stephen Miles says he'll now focus on holding the new LNP government to account and working to reconnect with Queenslanders. It's the party's first time in opposition in more than 10 years.
Well, here's a lovely story. Students at St Joseph's Primary School spent the last 2 months making stuffed bears for kids who need comfort. This year, they made a special edition for a young tourist who was hit in the head by a rock while on the Kuranda train.
2 weeks ago, a 5-year-old boy was travelling with his family on the Kuranda train when a rock hit his head. He was transported to Townsville Hospital and 4 young people were charged. Now these students at St Joseph's Primary School have given him a gift from the Cairns community.
Our children were really horrified by what had happened and the fact that these were a family on holidays. We've given them a Mercy Bear and we've made a card.
Every year, students at the school make hundreds of stuffed Mercy Bears for a cause close to their hearts.
This year they're going to the QPS for their safe rooms because we've talked about how children would be feeling if they are in a safe room at the police station.
Over the past 6 years, students have created more than 1,000 toys. And each one of them has to pass a special test before being gifted.
There's a thing called the cuddle test. So the cuddle test is what you do before you finish your bear. So you give a big hug and make sure it's stuffed right.
Christina Pooljak, 7 News.
I'm sure they all pass the cuddle test,
I'm sure they
Jo.
do. I love that story.
Beautiful kids, you've done an amazing job. Well, ahead tonight, a new warning to parents about the dangers of snakes.
And researchers delving into the hidden history of sports concussion.
And thanks for joining us here on 7. A smoke alert has been issued for parts of the far north due to planned burns at the Basilisk Range, Hull River, Ubanangi Swamp and Mariah Creek National Parks. Smoke may affect areas including Warrabullen, Meena Creek, Lower Tully, Mirrawinny, Silkwood and Curramine Beach. Motorists are advised to take care and be aware of firefighters working in those areas. The Queensland Parks and Wildlife Service says backburning will help reduce the intensity of future bushfires.
Queensland researchers are on a mission to debunk the concussion crisis beyond football injuries. They say athletes have been suffering from brain trauma for decades and expectations to perform in sport are fueling the risks.
Win this match.
A hit to the head.
Oh, here we go. This is not good.
Can have life-changing consequences for athletes. Professional or amateur, concussions don't discriminate.
These are people who are playing the same games but without the same level of monitoring.
Fell off a motorbike out west, checking waters, pretty much plowed in the ground, yeah.
Researchers at UQ say concussions are linked to diseases like Parkinson's and dementia.
And those concerns and those crises have been quashed.
Today, there's more attention on brain damage and footballers, but increased pressure to perform in contact sports is widespread, especially in Australia.
There's a lot of really interesting cultural factors that go into shaping the way Australians play sport as well.
Professor Stephen Townsend says there are hidden victims of concussions too.
An athlete using brain trauma as an excuse or to reduce their culpability.
Now the research is hoped to give the crisis new momentum to protect all of those at risk.
Especially when you have kids and stuff, you know, because you want their brains to be working the best they can.
Tom Duffy, 7 News.
Parents are being urged to educate their young children about the dangers of snakes. The reptiles are becoming more active as the weather warms up, with an alarming number of Queenslanders bitten.
This slithery hitchhiker made for a terrifying road trip.
And this little face came up in front of the windscreen and I just went, snake!
The tiny tree snake caused Fran, her sister and a friend to pull over at least 3 times.
And invite it to get out, but it didn't want to get out.
Snake season runs from September until April, and in the first 4 days of November, paramedics have already responded to at least 9 reports of snake bites across the state. A 2-year-old boy was recently bitten on the foot by an eastern brown in South Australia while going down a slide. It's still unclear whether babies are born with a fear of snakes or develop it. Professor Otmar Lipp says different parenting styles may explain why people show different levels of fear.
The best predictor of children's fear of anything is the response that the parents show.
Parents are being encouraged to explain the risks of snakes.
Teaching children from an early age how dangerous they can possibly be is a very good thing.
Because you never know where they might appear. Connor Alforque, 7 News.
Oh, well, I'm for one. I don't particularly like snakes, so...
I agree with you on that one, Joe, for sure.
Right. What's happening in sport, Nate? There was more than just the Melbourne Cup today, I believe.
Yeah, look, Joe, while some lucky punters were celebrating today's huge outsider, the Aussie and Tongan teams, they were being named for this weekend's Pacific Championship final as the Taipans rate the chances of their injured trio returning for Sunday's crunch game.
Stream 7 News anywhere, anytime, live and on demand on 7plus. And with 7news.com.au, you'll know the news now.
And welcome back for all of tonight's sport. Well, the Cairns Taipans have rated 3 of their injured players as medium chances of returning in Sunday's game against the South East Melbourne Phoenix. Tanner Groves, Taron Armstrong and Kyle Adnam will all face fitness tests later in the week.
A triple inclusion against South East Melbourne would be a boost for a Taipans team trying to avoid 7 straight defeats.
Tanner and Taron trying to get back on court and work their way back through some load stuff. Kyle, the same kind of thing. Just it's early on in the week, and with a Sunday game, we've got a little bit of time to test these guys.
An overcrowded Cairns casualty ward has forced fringe players to step up, and for the most part, they've held their own. But a lack of experience in pressure moments is what's stopping the team from winning games.
Everybody, I feel like, who's had their chance has
has shown what they can do, has played well, and it's just about closing games out, finishing the right way.
Jackson McCoy's making the most of his extra minutes without trying to overplay his hand.
Just trying to go out there and do my job, you know what I mean? Stay within the system, stay within the flow of the game, and also just being aggressive on both sides of the ball.
And he's hoping for another international appearance later this month.
Yeah, there's a chance. Still haven't decided yet, but you know, putting that South Sudan jersey on is always a hell of a feeling. So if I do go, it'll be another great experience.
The immediate focus is Sunday's showdown. The Phoenix have found form after a slow start to the season.
We're of the same mindset of the next 2 games before a fever break. We can knock these both off, then we're right back in the pack. We're right back in the hunt with 2/3 of the season to go.
Nathan Ferguson, 7 News.
Aussie coach Mal Meninga has labelled Jason Taumalolo a pioneer of the international game ahead of Sunday's Pacific Championship final against Tonga. The Kangaroos boss has again named a couple of his Cowboys in the side for the big game, along with a Penrith debutant.
At some stage on Sunday, pumped Panther Lindsay Smith will be unleashed for his Kangaroos debut.
Cam Murray's unfortunately hurt. We need an operation, so we're bringing Hudson Young into the team, and we've got Lindsay Smith coming onto the bench.
Cowboy Jason Taumalolo debuted for Tonga in 2013 before the Kiwis came calling, but his return to red in 2017 was a major moment in the international game.
Well, one of the pioneers, I think, yeah, absolutely. He's been great. You know, he's pledged his allegiance, and a lot have followed.
They've done so well to get where they are, and they wear their heart on their sleeve.
And the Pacific Islanders have a fan base to match. Meninga's hoping for a capacity CommBank Stadium in Sydney, even if it feels like an away match for Australia.
Whether it's a sea of red or a few green and gold sprinkled in there, so it doesn't particularly worry us too much. And I just think that now we want to do our country proud. We're passionate about it, our jersey, so we'll be in there fighting.
And that includes Cowboys Reuben Cotter and Tom Dearden, who have been named in the Kangaroo squad that's looking to win back the Pacific Championship. Meanwhile, fellow Cowboys Griffin Neame and Robert Derby have been named for New Zealand and PNG respectively for Sunday's showdown between the two nations at the same venue. The Kummels will be out to cause the upset and end their campaign undefeated. Nathan Ferguson, 7 News.
Meanwhile, the Northern Pride have announced their extended squads for next year's Mal Meninga and Cyril Connell Cup squads, along with their under 17 and 19 women's sides. They'll all be cut down closer to the start of the season, which is expected to be early February. The Pride will be represented across all QRL competitions next year, with the team taking part in the Women's BMD Premiership for the first time. History-making year to come for the Pride. Cannot wait, Joe. That's it for our sport.
Fantastic. Thanks for that, Nath. Well, after the break, Livio joins us and he'll have all the weather details for us.
Good evening, Livio, Regano with tonight's weather. The heat's ramping up across northern Queensland and the week ahead will feel very much like an excerpt from midsummer, except of course there'll be no rain. Not a drop in sight, just day after day of burning sunshine and dry grass. Could be time to get those sprinklers out. In Cairns today our top temp was 32 degrees, which is around about the midsummer average. Mareeba hit a high of 30 and Cooktown got to 31. To the satellite loop now. As expected, most of the state's been clear today, apart from the cloud around Cape York Peninsula, and also, of course, the storms that developed quite early this afternoon around the Darling Downs and then slowly moved east. There was a warning issued just for the Scenic Rim area, but most of the other storms were sort of borderline severe, some of them quite nasty, and they're still coming through now, so keep your ears out for warnings. Today's chart, the trough responsible for the storms is this one here, stretching across western Queensland, and then the lower end is coming through the Darling Downs. There's a heat wave warning ahead of that trough because of the intense northwesterly winds bringing down all that equatorial air. On tomorrow's chart, the trough actually regresses a little bit west. That'll take the focus of storms away from southeast Queensland. There may still be some isolated ones, but they're less likely to be severe and they'll be further apart. Meanwhile, in the tropics, it's just going to be burning heat. There's no rain at all. On the outlook chart, Again, we see that trough move further east, but we're going to have to wait until Friday before the next front catches up with it, drags it through eastern Queensland and brings another round of storms for the southern part of the state. And now the latest from BOM, the boating forecast for Cairns waters. East to southeast winds, 10 to 15 knots only tomorrow. Same again on Thursday, still no change on Friday. A boater's dream, you could say. The new moon's well behind us now, so the tidal swing is settling right down. At the moment, we've got our high tide around the middle of the day and low tides around dawn and dusk. For the North Tropical Coast and Tablelands, a slight chance of a coastal shower. Cairns 21 to 32 degrees, Atherton 29, Innisfail 30, Mareeba 33. And looking ahead for Cairns, no rains forecast for at least the next 5 days. There's a possibility some showers may develop next week, but the odds aren't brilliant. The only thing for certain is that it's going to be hot. Atherton also has the same sort of trend. You'll see a sort of a 30% chance of showers Monday into Tuesday, which isn't great, and tops will stay around that 30 mark. And that's all for tonight, folks. Pleasure to have your company as always, and thanks for watching 7 Local Weather. I'll be back tomorrow with more on the latest. Hope you can join me then. Now it's back to the team.
Yeah, good on you, Livio. Thank you very much for that. Well, we hope you enjoyed Melbourne Cup Day, and we'll catch you again tomorrow here on 7.
And just also a reminder, you can watch a replay of our news on 7 Plus, or you can download the 7 News app. From all of us here, enjoy your evening. Good night.
Good night.